And I'm joined by Henrik of Empire. How you doing, man?
I'm really good. I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Lee. It's good to see you. How are you?
Yeah, doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. It's good to have you back on, mate. It's been a little while since we caught up, so it's good to see you.
Yeah, when did we talk? Was it before Relentless came out? Was that the last time?
I think it was just before Relentless came out, mate. Yeah, I think that was the last time we had you on.
It feels like longer than a year ago, both like talking to you and also for Relentless coming out. I keep on sort of reminding myself it was only, what is it, middle of April now. So yeah, it came out at the end of March. So it was probably only like 13 months ago or so. But it seems longer to me. I don't know what, maybe a lot's happened. I don't know.
I guess well, you have had a lot happen in that year, man. Like you say, Relentless has just celebrated its first year anniversary, so to speak, and like I say, it's been that length of time since I spoke to you. But how's the year been for you guys?
It's been good. Relentless got a great response. I think we were always pretty happy with it as an album. It was nice to finally get released. I think we probably said back at the time that when we had the release build up, first of all announcing we'd signed to Kscope, and then a month later releasing the first single, and then there was another like three or four going up until the release time. Plus, with like I think we had three main shows built around the release, with one in Northampton just 3 weeks before, then one at KK's about 3 weeks afterwards as the big album celebration, then an acoustic show in Kettering, and there was an awful lot to kind of coordinate, and it was a relief when it finally came out and everybody could listen to it and we could just relax a bit. I was getting progressively stressed as as, as the end of March approached, with so many different things to do. But yeah, it all went well in the end, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, man, it received a great response. You like you say, you got signed to Kscope, you got released on that. From an audience point of view and fan point of view as well. I was getting emails saying, can you play X, can you play Y, can you play Z? Relentless got such a lot of attention. I thought just from a music fan's point of view, which rightly so. You were kind enough to send it ahead of the time of it being released because we were talking about it, and I remember listening to this thing. The boys have got something very, very special here, and I think you got a good response to that.
Yeah, we were really happy with the album, as I said. And it's just nice to to know that other people feel a similar way about it to how we feel about it. That um, it was a little bit step in a slightly different direction in some aspects. You'd find like some of the tracks were what you'd expect to come on Self-Aware. I think stuff like Road to Nowhere was a track that could have appeared on Self-Aware, and then you had stuff like Hit and Run and Waking Light that went off in a more poppy commercial direction, and stuff like Parasite, which was more metal in some respects, but also a bit more kind of operatic in other respects. And then you had the big ballads that people will probably expect from us, like Forget Me and Quiet Commotion and those kind of things. So it was nice to do some different stuff as well as some of the things that we really wanted to do. Okay, let's do it something else that's like An Only Way Out, and let's do something else that's like a New Republic or a Stone that will give people some familiar ground to get to know it by.
It's cool, man. I mean, like you say, it's part of the sort of special shows that you did for it. You did a series of live shows, including like an unplugged show, you say, at Kettering Arts Centre,
Mm-hmm.
and also along those sort of lines, you've just released that you guys are going to announce, sorry, that you're going to release your first live album, your live and unplugged album that you're due to release in May. I mean, is that something that's
Yep.
sort of been on the list of stuff you wanted to do?
It's I don't think it was until last summer that I really thought about it seriously. We knew we had recordings. We've been recording the few gigs that we've done in Kettering at the art centre there, which for those that don't know is a church basically. So the acoustics are great, and we'd record all the gigs. So that meant that we had the material to look at, but I really hadn't listened to any of it up until I think last summer.
Yeah,
It
okay.
all sitting on the computer. And then in September time, I think it was, where we thought, okay, well, we're gonna try and see what we got and piece it together. And it was just a case of, okay, can we get 7 tracks together so we've got something that feels like an album? And then it's okay, well, we could do 9. Oh, okay, well, we could do 11. And frankly, we could have done more than the 11 that are on the CD.
Oh, wow.
So, but we picked what we felt was right. So we've got all the tracks that are on the other side, which is 8 because the other side has 2 versions of Only Way Out on there. So you've got all of those tracks. Then you've got 2 from the new album, Relentless, got Your Whole Life Slows and Hit and Run. And we've also got a version of New Republic, which was on Self-Aware, but we never did the acoustic version of it until, well, we didn't do it for the other side of the acoustic album. We didn't think it would work particularly. And then one time we were just having a laugh in the practice room. I thought, okay, let's just try and do acoustic New Republic. Let's see how it works. And it wasn't too bad. We were quite happy with it. So then we did it live for the first time in Kettering, and we thought, well, it'd be nice to put that on the CD.
Nice.
So that's on there too. So as well as there's a lot of chat that's gone on there. So that was also part of it. It isn't an amalgamation of gigs. It runs the CD, and at the moment we're only releasing it on CD. We're not gonna put it out on the streaming services or any other format until 2025, because we thought it would be nice if people can get one of these. That's basically what they're going to get. This is the CD with a little bit about it in here, and then some pictures from Joe Johnson on the front, who was kindly took some pictures for us, and then a little bit of an ode to Self-Aware on the back, and an ode to Relentless up here. So it was the case of, we had the tracks, we had some of the chat to go in between it, and what we've done with the chatting is we've put it at the end of a track. Okay. So, for example, if I'm doing like cut to the core has some talking at the end of it about the following track, but that comes at the end of cut to core. So you can go from track to track, skipping on the CD, and you'll only get the music. If you don't want to listen to the talking, once you've heard it like once or twice, it might be quite boring. So you can skip it. And that's also something that's specific to the CD, because none of that stage banter and chat, us talking about the band and the background and the history of the songs and those sorts of things, that won't appear on the single versions that go on the streaming services. So if you want the gig experience, as we call it, which runs seamlessly, there's no gap on the CD, runs start to finish, the whole gig. That's only available on CD. So that was also one of the reasons why it took a little while for it to come together, because it's like, how are we going to do this? Yeah. How are we going to build this? Can we get it to feel like a gig, which I think we've succeeded in, but it'd be interesting to hear when people actually listen to it, to see whether they feel it runs like a gig, like a typical Empyre set. And it does run in order, as you would expect. Like if you're familiar with our set list, yeah, kind of things would appear where you expect them to appear.
That's interesting that, you've like a lot of people when doing a live album would have taken an amalgamation of, a few shows, but equally you've planned it out as people would expect to see, as seeing a full live incomplete set.
Yeah, it's we had effectively 3 gigs from Kettering that we could choose from, but we didn't play all of the songs at every gig. So the first gig we did there, we didn't play anything from the new album. And then the second gig we did, I think we only played a few songs from the new album. So there were some things, and like New Republic, where we didn't really have, it wasn't like Cut to the Core or Drive, or we could choose from 3 different versions. It was a case of, have we got a good enough version of this song we could put on, we would be happy to put on the CD. And then can we blend it all together to actually make it feel as if it did all happen at one time? And it's not that we're trying to trick people on that front, but no, I think it's nice that if it feels that way, it feels cohesive, rather than oh, well, that's obviously from that gig and that's from another one. We could be more specific, but quite frankly, I've forgotten what comes from what now. I have to really look.
When you guys released the other side, one of the things me, you, and Did spoke about was sort of the MTV Unplugged side of things, and we both spoke about albums that we love, that we all love from those eras. So, well, was there an element of that when you were doing the live Unplugged album that you would try and sort of keep?
I guess this is our MTV Unplugged album, if you want to look at it, because it's even more that way than the other side. It really is a live gig, and you can hear the instruments in a different way. It's really weird, because some of it sounds bigger than the other side, just from having that kind of live ambience and atmosphere and captured a bit of the essence of the church acoustics. And because you can hear the crowd and you can a bit of applause, and now and again you can even hear stuff in the intro of songs of either somebody heckling us or shouting or whooping or just something. And there's little bits in Homegrown where you can hear the crowd do a in the middle of the big riff. So there's nice stuff like that, which kind of makes it more like the live gig that you expect. So yes, this really is our ode to MTV Unplugged, which, as you say, was the whole idea behind the other side to start off with.
Yeah, man, that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to hearing this, because like when we spoke, like say when we spoke about before, the MTV Unplugged side of thing, I love watching those growing up, and I think some of those albums are equally still some of my favorites now. So I'm really excited to hear, your version of it, if you like, mate. And I haven't seen you guys live, I know exactly what you guys put on the table, so it's even more exciting to have a live album.
Well, I won't say what I put on, but I put on one or two of my favorite MTV Unplugged albums as a reference point to like, oh, can we get it to sound like this? And I was surprised at how thin they sounded.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, like just how it's like, okay. And as I said, I won't say which one, but it's like, it was really, there wasn't a lot of fatness to the bass and the drums and things. So I was like, okay, gosh, I remember this sounded a lot better than. So I think I'd like to think what we've done with the CD is will live up to that kind of standard, or should in modern day terms, it should be better sound quality than an MTV Unplugged. I would like to think so. So yeah, I'll be interested in your thoughts on that when you get the CD.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. They say it was recorded at Kettering Arts Centre. Now you've done a lot of Unplugged shows there over the last, over your career. There's obviously a venue that's pretty special to you guys.
Yeah, not only is it local, and when we're not religious at all, if you know anything about Homegrown, you'll know it's slightly somewhat the other direction in terms of lyrically, but that doesn't mean to say we don't enjoy playing in a church. It's a great venue. They're really nice people, and it's just a nice venue to play in. It's quite relaxed. It's kind of weird in terms of, I think for us as Empire to play in a church, we've got kind of comfortable with it now. And as I said, it's local to us. It's a hometown gig for I think actually Elliot was born in Kettering and grew up there, might have been born there too. So it's kind of real hometown gigs for those guys. And it's just nice to go back there. And we go back there on October the 12th. So really we're going to celebrate this album on Saturday, October the 12th. And we announced tickets for that show when we announced the album, and at the moment, while the pre-orders on the go, you can get a signed CD and a gig ticket at a discounted price, because it would just be nice to go back there with that album out and recreate it again in a live form.
Yeah, that's bound to be fun, man. Like you say, when you've done, as the gigs you've done there, and this obviously a celebration of those that you've done, and then to go back and have that as your reference point, but equally create something special for the night. That's got to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what we're going to do yet. In terms, we was trying to do something that's a little bit different, throw in a different song that people haven't heard before, or just make something special. And I don't know what that will be, but we'll certainly try and kind of enhance something. And it won't just be the songs that are on the album. I can't think what we haven't done yet acoustically we haven't done acoustic Something Remains. We haven't done acoustic Too Little Too Late from the others, from Self-Aware.
Yeah.
And there are probably a few things we haven't done acoustically from Relentless. So you never know, maybe there'll be something from one of those that we would try to do and just create as much of an atmosphere there as possible.
No,
I'll see. I'll start thinking about it a bit more as we get towards the summer. Quite what are we going to do for this special gigs? Like when we did KKs, like last year, they got a 10-meter video wall. So literally, once we found out we were going to be in the big room, I spent 3 days making a video to run the entire length of our set.
nice.
Just to do that. So yeah, that was a a mammoth effort, but really made things different, because now even when I look back at the pictures or a bit of the video of the night, and there's, I don't know, we're playing Parasites, and Parasites video is going on behind us, or Hit and Run is the same. Just, yeah, always try and do something a little bit better than expected is what I'm aiming for.
Well, I think that's something you guys have always, in my opinion, always done. You've always pushed it. Anytime you've had an opportunity in terms of, like you say, you did the show at KK's, you guys, you sold out the smaller room, you went into the bigger room. You didn't just go, great, we're in the bigger room now, which is incredible to to get up to that. It's a fantastic venue. But you took that opportunity and you went, right, okay, well, we've done this, so I'm going to get, your big video screen and put that in the back and make something more of it. Or, you've recorded your sort of more intimate shows that you've done and now are releasing this album. Is that just something that, I mean, from working with you in terms of when I was fortunate enough to have you on at Just Push Play, like, you guys, for me, have always just been a band that will continue to push in those directions in terms of, let's take this opportunity and really max it out in terms of what we can do for both us as a band and for the people in the crowd.
Yeah, it's just part of, for me, it's because whenever I started going to like bigger rock shows, it's kind of just what I got used to. I remember going, I think, was it the first, I think the first arena show I ever saw was Extreme at NEC back in 93, or maybe even late 92. And I think that was the first time I'd ever been to a gig and they probably had screens up either side of the stage, which seemed massive in the day, but they were probably like 32-inch TVs, And then 6 months later, I went to see Guns N' Roses and Milton Keynes Bowl, and of course the screens were a bit bigger. And then like 2 years later, I went to see Bon Jovi at Wembley, and everything's got a bit bigger, and they had those big kind of blow up like monsters and stuff that were probably stolen ideas from Iron Maiden. And so the spectacle part of it always kind of stuck with me as, yeah, it's great to go and see some of the bands that you like, but if there's something else going on, maybe that will also kind of stick with people. So whenever that opportunity comes along, we really like to just take hold of it and see what we can do. I mean, I'd like to be able to do a Pink Floyd style light show if we had all of that kind of equipment to do some of those sorts of things. When we released Relentless, or 3 weeks before Relentless, we rented out a cinema so that people could hear it for the first time. And it's also about just trying to sell out every single show that we do, which is a challenge, and not going to happen for like sort of like KK's in the big room, but at least we could sell it out in the small room to get to those ambitions are always there. We're trying to, in a weird way, trying to treat every show a bit like an arena show, because we're not shy about saying our ambitions, that's what we want to get to. We want to get to the arenas and do those sorts of things. It would be nice if for every show we could have a 10-meter video wall behind us with some amazing visuals and a great light show and the music. That's just what we want to do, basically. To answer your question, yeah, that's what we want to do.
But there's nothing wrong. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying, we want to get to the arenas, we want to be able to do the Pink Floyd-esque light show, we want to be able to do this. The first time I saw you guys play a Planet Rock Winter's End Festival, I said to Joe, like, that's an arena band. They're an arena band playing this, and they're at a festival show. But even just sonically, you had that vibe about you, and I think you've always had that. And I think it would be remiss of anyone to say that they weren't going to do it if that's what they wanted to do. But anyone who's starting a band wants to play big shows, and if you say you want to play and some bands thrive in a more kind of punk rock type club circuit or whatever it might be, and everyone's got the things that they like the most. But if that's your aspiration, why would you deny it? And I think I'm going to sound all hippie-ish now, but I think if you put it out into the world and you say, that's what I want to do, that's what I'm doing, you're vocalizing it, you're giving yourself the energy to say, that's what I want to do. That's why when you get the opportunity like you did at KK's, you brought an arena vibe to it by doing the video.
Well, yeah, I hope so. And like, if that can sort of, what's the word, metamorphosize itself into actually manifestate, that's the word I'm looking for, into happening, then I suppose maybe this is, you could almost see it as, when we're doing those things, it is almost like an audition for, hopefully somebody out there will see us and go, okay, we got to put those guys with another band who's going out and doing the arenas, or we just managed to somehow, it seems unbelievable that we'd be able to do it by ourselves at the moment, but get to that level of doing those things. But well, thanks, Lee. I appreciate that. It's nice that some people kind of recognize the aim from the early days. As you said, the first time you ever saw us was at Winter's End, which was our biggest gig at that time to that date, basically, those few weeks before lockdown. And it's nice that we still managed to get it across that what we were trying to do was, even though it's probably it would have been the biggest stage we ever played on at that time, we were trying to even then magnify the size of our sound and everything else. But there does seem to be something about a big sound system and a big stage that we can play up to and make it even bigger, sound even bigger, or look even bigger, even though we don't run around on stage. We're not like, old days Guns N' Roses running up and down the stage, all that sort of stuff. We're pretty static when it comes to that, but as long as we can make it seem big, that's great.
Well, you don't have to run around the stage to fill it. You know what I mean? Don't get. There's bands out there who absolutely run on stage that I do, and equally there's artists like we've spoken about before, like Stephen Wilson, for example, who just I've seen him on stage at the Albert Hall, with just him and his acoustic doing, Barrow Alice or something, and it's just filled it with, it's just some artists have got that, and I think it goes back to what we were saying about that, wanting to go for that bigger sound. Sometimes, the sound and the performance is big enough to fill it without running around. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
So, but speaking of live shows, man, you got some lined up. You're doing Bradstock in a couple of weeks. That's got one up on it. Looking at that.
Yes. Yeah, so there's Bradstock. We haven't been to Night Train since we were touring with Mason Hill back in 2021. So yeah, Night Train, Bradstock. So it's a good lineup.
Yeah, really.
That'd be good. So that's Bradford one night, and then the next night we up in Kirriemuir in Scotland, so near Dundee for Bondfest up there on the Sunday night. What else we got? We got a headline gig in Wales, May 25th at the Patriot in Crumlin. That's sold out already, I'm pleased to say. So that's good. That's kind of gone. It'd be nice that we played there last year. Be good to go back there for another sold out gig. Then the following week we're back in a similar sort of direction. We're in Honiton in Devon for Festival on the Hills.
Oh yeah.
Where they've got an interesting mix of acts such as Bewitched, us, the guy who was the singer, Tunde, who was the singer in Lighthouse Family, Reef. But yeah, it's kind of it's a mixture of pop as well as some of the rock bands. There's us, there's Reef, who else is there? The Hot Dam, Haxon, I think Anchor Lane. So yeah, some of that, the kind of our scene, as well as, I think at one stage, I don't know if he's still playing. He's meant to be playing on the night we're playing on the Saturday. Billy Ocean's meant to be there, which, yeah. So you'll get Parasites followed by Caribbean Queen. There we go. That'll be.
Who doesn't want a night where it's mixed up that much, mate?
Yeah. So yeah, that'll be. But I'm looking forward to it because we'll play more of our kind of like. We probably won't play Parasites. We might. I'm not quite sure, but there'll be Hit and Run, and there'll be Waking Light, and there'll be like probably Titanium. Maybe we'll even do like a couple of the covers, like You Know My Name and that sort of stuff. There's things that people know, make it a bit more accessible.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see. It's been a long time since Empyre have played in front of a not necessarily rock orientated crowd, so it'd be interesting to see how that works.
How have you found those things in the past when you've done that?
I think there's just generally been an air of indifference from the crowd, as opposed to our normal air of indifference. So yeah, it's hard, but we haven't often done it. We've done a couple of those kind of town festival things where it's been mainly local bands, and people are there just. They're there for a family day out or for having a few drinks in the sun. So it could be anybody playing. But normally at those things, they're looking for something that's a bit more upbeat. So if we're coming along and playing Parasites and Only Way Out and Quiet Commotion, Stone, whatever else, then I think it's easy for us to get ignored. But also, undoubtedly, you're still going to get 5 people who come up to you afterwards and go, "I've never heard of you guys before. What on earth was that? That was amazing." Those, because a rock fan will turn up. So, but I think we're probably in a better position now after Relentless with tracks like Waking Light and Hit and Run, as well as being able to put in something that is for the fans like Only Way Out. And we'll probably still do New Republic and do a couple of covers, Titanium, because it's also about sometimes just getting them to prick their ears up. So if we play Titanium and they go, "Oh, I recognize this," halfway into the song, then they might also listen to the next one or just listen to a bit more of the set than they would have done normally. But
having that attention in it.
As they've got some other bands like Reef playing and some bigger acts, I guess people are going there as well for the live music. So it'd be interesting to see what that one's like. But that'll be the kind of most interesting gig of the summer, I reckon. And then into September, we've got we just announced a gig at Leo's down in Gravesend, which
nice.
again we played there last year, sold that one out. So it'd be nice to go back there again, see if we can do the same again. So we're there with Blue Nation, and then there'll be an opening band as well. And then we've got the acoustic gig in October, on October the 12th. So I'm sure there'll be other stuff that comes up in between and probably after October as well. But that's pretty much what we've got at the moment.
All right, I didn't realise you were down there with down at Leo's with Blue Nation. I'll have to come down to that.
It is only just announced within the last few minutes.
All right. That'd be why.
In fact, if I look at it, it might not even be announced yet. It might be 10 minutes away. But yeah, that's happening September the 7th.
That's the main one, mate. It's all good. That's how fresh we like it on the show, mate.
Oh yeah, get the news here first.
Absolutely. So as we were saying earlier, like Relentless is just hit its year anniversary. Got great views. Have you got any plans in the forthcoming to start working on new material, or is that something you're working on, Wild?
We will do, probably now that we're pretty much close to putting the acoustic CD, the live CD to bed. We will, no doubt, our minds will wander on to writing some new stuff. Of course, there have been ideas flying around, but we haven't taken anything into the practice room yet. So maybe that's something for the summer in terms of that. So I can't give any indication of when there'll be any new music. I get the feeling it might be a bit different though with whatever comes. Maybe there'll be some of got a similar vibe, and then there'll be some other stuff that is different again. I'm kind of intrigued to know what people expect us to do next, and intrigued to know what people would like us to do next. And we'll ignore both and do whatever we fancy. Yeah.
I wouldn't want you to do anything else other than that. Is that because you're listening to other things, or do you think you just made the statement you wanted to make with Relentless, and that you're now thinking let's expand on that, or let's try going down this avenue?
I think it's like a progression from Relentless in terms of, if you think about Self-Aware, which was just 2 guitars, a bass, and some drums and some vocals. It wasn't basic, but it was basic in terms of the instrumentation that went in there. Whereas then Relentless, you've got a whole bunch of orchestral stuff, you got some synthy stuff, you got some samples that go on, some things that are a little bit more commercial. I think I'll be spending my time just sort of investigating. Now I know that we can replicate a lot of that live. Well, what's the next level of doing that? How can we just build upon that? But what direction it goes in, I'm not entirely sure yet. And that will also depend on whatever I write or whatever did write. So whatever one of the other guys right, you never know what that's going to turn into, because it might not be the same as the, you know, little demo that's put together. So it's kind of interesting that way to see what could happen. I think you could see or hear a bit more piano. I think that might be brought into it a little bit more, because now that a couple of times we've taken Did's keyboard out with us to do the acoustic, or what kind of an amalgamation version of Only Way Out, where we start off acoustic and then it goes into the electric version. And I think it would be nice. It would bring a different dynamic. We like playing with the piano when we do the acoustic gigs, which is always there for the acoustic gigs. If it was always there for an electric gig, it would be a shame only to use it once for Only Way Out.
Absolutely.
So I can see that could be something that we could use a little bit more.
Nice.
I would also I think I quite like another slow song like Only Way Out that was just piano based. Maybe didn't even have guitar in it at all. So there'll be those sorts of things that we will probably try. But yeah, quite what's going to happen, I don't know.
That's exciting.
Have to see what.
It's the not knowing is the exciting thing. You know, you guys have always had, you know, both as a collective and individually, have had a sort of an array of influences. You know, I remember when Relentless was released, we did like an album launch show for you here on the show, and as a part of that, we got you guys to, you know, send in some tunes or favorite stuff that you guys wanted to play, and that's always fun for me. I like doing the takeover shows because I'm not in control, and it gets me playing stuff that I might not necessarily think to play off, and sometimes it's stuff that I've not heard, which is even better for me as a general music fan. And from the takeover show we did, you guys went from literally from one end of being, you know, I remember Guns N' Roses got picked all the way through to trying to remember who else has got picked now off the top of my head. I remember Did had some very interesting choices. But you know, there was a complete extremity in those things, and I think,
well, there could have been anything. I think from Elliot, like in 21 Pilots.
I think I did play 21.
One of his, yeah, I think you probably did. Did and I, a whole band like in a Danish band called Dizzy Miss Lizzy, so we played some of that stuff that is like most people are unfamiliar with. Grant has always come from the prog background, so half the bands on Kscope I'd never heard of them before we got signed, or at least before I met Grant.
Yeah.
But it just turns out that a lot of the bands that he would play on would put on Spotify or whatever during a trip to going out to the gigs. He's the one who introduced me to Stephen Wilson and Pineapple Thief and Porcupine Tree and that kind of stuff. So he was very proggy, whereas Did has been a bit like me in terms of rock and pop, but he was also into country. And he probably got you to play Taylor Swift, I would imagine. So that's the interesting thing, that depends who writes a song. I think Grant would like to write a little bit more. Of course, it was his bass line that led to Your Whole Life Slows. I turned that into a more fully formed song, but he comes from a more abstract, possibly even heavier, more metal in some respects background, along with that prog. So there could be some elements of that. I prefer stuff that is a bit more predictable, or in my view, traditional melodic than some of the proggy stuff. And yeah, we'll just see how it all gels together, depending on who's written what. But at the moment, I guess it will probably turn out as it'll be normally Did and I who will write the majority of the songs. So we'll have to see. But the other guys, they always put their parts in. But I think that was the fun thing about trying to write Relentless, in terms of we would create something or I would create something. And these days, now that everybody's got their own, digital audio workstation on a computer, for the most part, I'll send out a rough demo and then go, guys, write what you fancy, see what happens. So that's kind of my plan on it, just to give everybody some free reign and see what happens.
Oh, nice one, man. So what does the rest of the year hang out for you guys, other than, the few gigs that we've spoken about? Have you got?
I guess like just part of what I do in terms of the gigs is just trying to find new avenues to try and, or at least try and find a bigger fan following.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I'm doing is digital marketing for the band, trying to find new fans through selling CDs or putting our videos out there or growing our Spotify or whatever the, you know, streaming services fan base, because inevitably that then comes back where people will then find a gig or come and find some more of your music. But it is a bit of a funnel process in terms of you've got to hit 1,000 people for just 10 of those people who will end up being big fans of Empyre and might come down to a gig or buy a t-shirt or that sort of stuff. So part of it is for me running the business side of the band, which is what I try to do to make sure that the band can actually be a profitable enterprise, because it gets very, very difficult when it isn't a profitable enterprise, which certainly for the first few years of the band, it wasn't. But that's, you know, it's like it's a hobby that if you're doing a covers band, you've got a hobby that will normally at least cover your costs and hopefully leave you with some money in the back pocket, which is why Did and I spent 10 years doing that before we even really started doing originals properly. And that was great. And then you get into an originals band and you start doing that and you realize that when you made $5 grand from doing covers the year before, why have we lost $5 grand in this? From doing it, like, what? Yeah. So yeah, that's the that's the kind of tricky thing about it, but also that's what I have been doing to try to change things. So hopefully now we're at that kind of cusp point where we're doing the odd headline show without going overboard on it.
Yeah.
We're trying to sell out. That's the aim. We want to sell out every single headline show that we do. So as I said, Patriot and Crumlin's already sold out. Leo's is only just announced, but hopefully we'll sell that out as well. It's not a huge place. Yeah. So we sold out last time. Hopefully we can sell it out again. And that'll certainly be the aim with Kettering as well, to sell that one, because it's the power of sold out. Hopefully that can help us
build up,
grow on, get onto other things and bigger stuff. So we'll see. So it's at the moment it's a relatively quiet year in terms of gigging, but then that does hopefully allow us to focus at some stage once the album comes out, the live album, onto the writing and doing some other stuff.
Nice one, man. Like you say, the live album will be coming out. When we air this interview, we'll obviously put the links up again so people can follow for the pre-orders, you know, for the gig, ticket to the gig, for the album itself, for the t-shirts that you put out. I saw as well, they look cool, and everything else, mate. So yeah, as always, great to chat to you, Henrik, man. Appreciate your time. As we spoke about it, kept cropping up in conversation. I'm going to play Parasite to the beginning of,
brilliant.
of the interview, but what song of yours would you like us to play at the end of the interview, mate?
I'll say Quiet Commotion.
Nice.
I'll pick another one from Relentless. Yeah, that's one that we want to start playing a bit more live. And now probably as we're doing the headline sets, we can get into the sets. Sometimes it gets a little bit forgotten I think it's the longest song on Relentless. I think it's like 6 minutes, 19 seconds. But when you're doing that and you're doing Homegrown and you're doing Forget Me and you're doing Only Way Out and Parasites as well, it's like, how many of these kind of the bigger atmospheric songs can we fit into one set without giving a bit of the standard rock? So I'll go with Quiet Commotion as my choice. And thanks for having me on. It's always good to speak to you, Lee. So and good to see you as well. Yeah,
you too, man. Always good to have you on, Henrik. You're always welcome, you know that, man. So no, thanks for your time, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.